This is Sean from Private Poker Deals, and in this video, we're going to discuss positional play and how understanding the role of position at the poker table can greatly influence your strategy. Position in poker refers to where you sit relative to the dealer button and blinds, influencing your hand's strength and actions. The button marks the dealer, rotating around the table after each hand. Blinds are mandatory bets, typically the small and big blinds, posted before cards are dealt to ensure there's money in the pot. In a six-player online game, the pre-flop betting begins with the player to the left of the dealer button, known as the small blind, SB, followed by the big blind, BB. These positions are considered early because they precede several players in the pre-flop round. After the small blind acts, the betting sequence moves to the BB until all players can call, raise, or fold. In the next betting rounds, the small blind, if still in hand, acts first. In poker, players in later positions hold a strategic advantage over those in earlier positions due to having more information available before making decisions. This advantage allows them to make more informed choices by observing how other players act. Consequently, early position strategies should be tighter, meaning players should play fewer hands and be more selective to reduce the risk of unfavorable situations where opponents have stronger hands. Small blind strategies. Opening range, starting with a 45% opening range from the small blind, is fairly aggressive. This strategy aims to take advantage of the positional disadvantage of being in the small blind. If the big blind doesn't defend enough, for instance, folding too many hands, you can widen your opening range further. Adjusting to big blind's play. If the BIF blind starts defending more and 3-betting frequently, it indicates strength. In response, you may need to tighten your opening range or incorporate more limping strategies to avoid playing too many hands out of position post-flop, which can be less profitable. Post-flop strategy. When playing out of position, your post-flop strategy heavily depends on the board texture. Despite being out of position, you can continuation bet, C-bet, up to 60% of the time against the big blind. However, it's essential to mix up your strategies to keep your opponents guessing and avoid becoming too predictable. Big blind strategies. Opening range. From the big blind, you should defend wider against late positions, but tighter against early positions. This is because late position opens tend to have a wider range of hands, whereas early position opens are more likely to be strong. Post-flop play. As the big blind, you have the advantage of closing the action pre-flop, allowing you to play more aggressively or creatively with hands that have good blockers or equity. Understanding your opponent's ranges and how they interact with various board textures is crucial for making informed decisions post-flop. Adjusting your strategy based on your opponent's tendencies, bet sizing, and board texture is key to maximizing your profitability from the big blind. Exploitative play. Exploiting opponents' tendencies, whether they are overly aggressive or passive, is essential in the big blind. This might involve adjusting your play based on specific opponents, exploiting their weaknesses, or employing a more straightforward strategy against predictable opponents. Middle position. Under the gun and middle position are the middle positions in poker, with under the gun acting after the big blind in pre-flop, followed by middle position. They face players yet to act but have some information from those who have already acted. While they can slightly widen their starting hand ranges, caution is still necessary due to players left to act behind them. When late position players fold pre-flop, under the gun and middle position can adopt more aggressive post-flop strategies. Under the gun strategies. Opening range. From under the gun, you're in the earliest position at the table, so you need to be cautious with your opening range due to the number of players left to act behind you. A tight opening range of 15–16% is recommended to avoid being put in difficult spots by aggressive players behind you. Post-flop play. Despite having a tight opening range, when you enter a pot from under the gun, you often have a range advantage over your opponents. You can leverage this advantage by applying pressure post-flop, especially in single-raise pots, to force your opponents to make tough decisions. Facing 3 bets. If you face a 3-bet after opening from under the gun, you need to be cautious. The 3-better typically has a strong range, so calling too wide can be costly, especially considering the potential rake impact. Folding to 3 bets is often the best play unless you have a premium hand or a strong red on your opponent. Middle position strategies. Opening range for middle position, you have a slightly more favorable position compared to under the gun, so you can widen your opening range to around 19%. This allows you to play more hands profitably, while still maintaining a relatively strong range compared to earlier positions. Post-flop strategy, with a wider opening range from middle position, you can put pressure on your opponents with a polarized flop continuation betting C-bet strategy. This means betting aggressively with your strong hands and bluffs while being selective with your medium strength hands. Facing 3 bets, the overall strategy for middle position is similar to under the gun, but with a slightly wider range. You still need to be mindful of players in later positions who can put pressure on you, especially if they are aggressive or capable of 3-betting light. Late positions, including the cutoff and button, offer significant profitability in poker, with the button having the added advantage of acting last in each post-flop round. Players in these positions benefit from having the most information available before making decisions, enabling them to observe opponents' actions. Late position affords players the opportunity to make more informed decisions due to having ample information about opponents' actions. This facilitates stealing blinds, bluffing more effectively, and maximizing value from strong hands. Cutoff strategies. Opening range typically has a wider opening range compared to earlier positions, with around a 27% range being common. This wider range allows for more flexibility in hand selection, but requires careful consideration of value versus bluff combinations in different situations. Post-flop strategy. On certain boards, employing a polarized sizing strategy can be effective. This involves using larger bets with your strong hands and smaller bets with your bluffs. Polarized sizing allows you to apply pressure on your opponents while still protecting your range. However, it's essential to mix in some simplified continuation bet strategies as well to keep your opponents guessing and prevent them from easily exploiting your bet sizing tells. Facing 3 bets. When facing a 3-bet from the button, the cutoff can widen their calling range due to the button's wider range in general. However, 4-betting more and calling 3 bets less can be a higher expected value option, especially against skilled opponents. Generally, calling 3 bets in position is preferable to out of position due to the positional advantage. Button. Opening range, the button typically plays the widest range at the table, often around 45%. If the small blind and big blind are weaker or not defending enough, button can open a wider range of hands. Adapting your opening range based on opponent tendencies is crucial for maximizing profitability. Post-flop strategy, against the big blind, simplifying or polarizing flop strategy is effective. Use polarized bet sizes on later streets to exploit their lack of defense, especially against weaker or station players. Leverage your range advantage by using polarized bet sizes on the turn and river, betting larger with strong hands and smaller with bluffs to apply pressure. 3-betting. On the button, a 3-betting range of up to 15% against the cutoff can be effective for putting the cutoff under pressure. This strategy works particularly well when the cutoff isn't 4-betting enough or defending against 3 bets with calling frequencies. By 3-betting aggressively, you can exploit the cutoff's weaker range and potentially force them to make difficult decisions post-flop. Adjusting your 3-betting frequency based on the cutoff's tendencies and table dynamics can help maximize your profitability from the button position. Facing 3 bets, the button can often call a wide range of 3 bets from both the small blind and big blind. The small blind typically has a depolarized range, while the big blind's range is often polarized. Occasionally, slow-playing aces against both blinds can be a strategic option, especially against aggressive opponents. Out of position and in position. Out of position refers to a situation in poker where a player is acting before their opponent in the betting order during post-flop play. In other words, if you're out of position, it means you're the first to act after the flop, turn, or river, which gives your opponent the advantage of acting after you. Being out of position is generally considered a disadvantage because you have less information about your opponent's actions and intentions. You must make decisions without knowing how your opponents will act, which can make it more challenging to navigate the hand effectively. Being in position allows you to control the pace of the hand, gather information from your opponent's actions, and potentially exploit their weaknesses more effectively. Why is position so important in poker? Positional play also affects the types of hands you should play. In early positions, you want to play tighter and stick to premium hands that have a higher chance of winning. As you move to later positions, you can widen your range and play more hands, including speculative hands like suited connectors and small pairs. For example, let's say you're dealt a marginal hand like 8-9 suited. In an early position, it might be best to fold this hand because you risk getting raised by players behind you, putting you in a tough spot. However, if you're in a late position and the action folds to you, you can consider raising or even bluffing with this hand. Understanding the importance of position at the poker table is essential for maximizing your profits and minimizing your losses. By leveraging your position effectively, you can gain a significant edge over your opponents and improve your overall poker game. What are your key strategies for maximizing profits through positional play? Share with us.